All right, in this explainer, we're diving into a pretty radical idea. The idea that all the conflicts we see in the world, and even in our own lives, they all boil down to a single choice. It's a concept called the two wisdoms.
I mean, you look around and conflict is everywhere, right? It's all over the news, it's in our politics, in our schools, and sometimes, let's be honest, it's right there in our own homes. So what is the root cause of all of this, and where can we possibly find real, lasting peace?
For this explainer, we're actually drawing from a recording of a small conversation group as they were unpacking an ancient text that offers a pretty surprising answer. They believe the path to either peace or total disorder all begins with the kind of wisdom we choose to follow.
So the source material they're looking at is the book of James. And it's funny, one of the people in the discussion actually called it his desert island book, the one book you'd want if you were stranded. Why? Because it's just so packed with tangible, practical advice. And there's just one key passage that lays out two completely different ways to approach life.
Okay, so the first path it describes is what it calls earthly wisdom. You can kind of think of this as the default setting for a lot of the world. It's a way of thinking that really doesn't look beyond what's immediate or what's material.
And wow, the text does not pull any punches. It uses some really strong language to define this path, calling it earthly, soulish, and demonic. Basically, it's a wisdom that's focused only on the physical world. It's driven by our basest instincts, and ultimately, it's destructive. It's a way of thinking that's just totally disconnected from any kind of higher purpose.
So what does this actually look like in real life? Well, the text gets super specific. It gives us these telltale signs: bitter jealousy, selfish ambition, boasting, and lying. And here's the kicker. The end result isn't real success. It's just disorder and what the text calls a worthless practice.
But the text doesn't just diagnose the problem and leave us there. No, it presents this powerful alternative. It outlines a completely different way forward, a wisdom that it says descends from above.
And the characteristics of this second path, they're a world apart from the first. This wisdom is described as pure and peaceable, patient and full of mercy. It's impartial, not playing favorites, and it's without hypocrisy. It's a wisdom that's rooted in humility and a genuine concern for other people.
When you actually put them side by side like this, the contrast is just stark. It's unbelievable. On one hand, you have jealousy and ambition, and they lead straight to disorder. On the other, you have purity and peace, which lead to mercy and good fruit. These are not just slightly different routes. They are opposite paths leading to totally different destinations.
Okay, so this is where it gets really practical. The group discussion made it so clear that these aren't just abstract ideas. Not at all. These are choices we are all facing, every single day, at work and at home. For example, one person shared this story about a tough business owner he knew, someone who was hyper-focused on one thing and one thing only, the profit and loss statement. The P&L, boom, boom, boom. This owner was, by all worldly standards, a success. But there was no higher calling for that success. He was operating purely from that earthly wisdom.
And hearing that story sparked this really powerful moment of self-reflection for another guy in the group. He started looking back on his own ambitious career, and he asked himself this really tough question. How much of my drive was just a worthless practice? Something rooted in selfish ambition, instead of something truly meaningful.
And this tension, it's illustrated so perfectly by this daily challenge a father in the group shared. One of his sons pushes the other. The second brother doesn't just push back, he strikes back even harder. And as the dad, you're suddenly at this crossroads. How do you teach your kid to be strong and defend themselves without letting raw anger and retaliation just take over? That right there, that is the daily friction between these two wisdoms.
So, if these are the two paths with their own distinct characteristics and daily choices, where do they ultimately lead? What is the final outcome of choosing one wisdom over the other?
The passage ends with what the discussion group saw as the absolute key to everything. It says, "And the fruit of righteousness is sown in peace by those who make peace." Think about that. It means a life of goodness and real purpose. It grows like a seed, and it has to be planted in peace by people who are actively making peace.
And this was the ultimate takeaway for them. Peacemaking isn't just some passive desire. It's the active result, it's the harvest that comes from cultivating that heavenly wisdom. It connects directly to that famous idea, blessed are the peacemakers.
So the crucial point is this. The text argues that the conflict and disorder we see all around us isn't just random.
It's the direct result of a wisdom built on jealousy and selfish ambition. And in the same way, peace is the direct result of a wisdom that is pure, merciful, and humble. The choice we make determines the outcome.
And that really brings us to the final, and maybe most provocative question this whole idea leaves us with. When you look at your own life, in your work, in your home, deep down in your own heart, which path are you on? What kind of wisdom are you actively cultivating today?